Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us for tonight's business meeting. I'll call this meeting to order, and we do have 6 of our 7 board members present, so I do declare a quorum. And the very first thing we're going to do is do the Pledge of Allegiance. And to help us with that today, from Lincolnshire Elementary School, we have Miss Hazel Shoemaker.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A moment of silence. All right, maybe you see them. Now, Hazel, you're on the clock still. You're not allowed to sit yet. So, Hazel, you're from Lincolnshire Elementary School. What grade are you in?
Kindergarten.
Kindergarten. Wow, okay. Now, tell me, do you have anyone here joining you today?
Yes.
Do you want to introduce them to us?
Yes. Mommy, Dad, Ira, Nils.
Very good. Anyone else?
Yes. Miss Fleming.
Miss Fleming? And anyone
And
else?
Miss Memley.
I love
And
it.
Miss Hemline.
Very good. Very good. That's what I like to hear. Now, tell me, do you have a favorite subject at Lincolnshire?
Yes.
What is it?
Science.
Science? Oh, that's a new one. Usually it's either
Math or English.
math or
Yeah.
English. I like it. What's your favorite part about science right now?
My favorite part about science is that we get to watch videos.
I like it. I like it. Very good. Do you have any hobbies?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Gymnastics.
Oh, gymnastics. Very good, very good. And I also see that you like to sing and dance along to Taylor Swift songs.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite Taylor Swift song?
Yeah.
Which one?
Ophelia.
What was it? Oh, I don't know what that means. I'm not sorry. I bet it's a great song, though. I bet you could sing it better than she can, too. Yeah? Have you ever been to a Taylor Swift concert?
No.
Maybe one day. Very good. Now, is there anything else you'd like to tell us about your days there at Lincolnshire?
Yeah.
Yeah?
When I go to Lincolnshire, I like to do math centers.
Oh, math centers, which is also a science, right? Very good, very good. Board members, does anyone else have anything for Hazel?
I need to ask something. Do you guys still watch Bill Nye the Science Guy? Do you ever watch that?
No.
Okay, I'm way out of touch.
I'll be honest with you, I didn't even watch Bill Nye the Science Guy either. I didn't. Maybe that's why Hazel's smarter than me.
Well, we sure appreciate you coming tonight. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Hazel. Very good. All right, we will move into this evening's agenda, and first up is to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Dr. Zimmeyer. Second by Ms. Murray. Any discussion? Everyone good with it? Move to the vote. All in favor? Unanimous vote with the student concurring. So we have our agenda, and next we have our meeting minutes. Do we have someone, do you have the meeting minutes?
Who's got them?
I don't remember which meeting minutes we need to.
The one that came. We didn't get them? Oh, I have them somewhere. Sorry.
Are they in there?
President Evans, I move to approve the meetings from open session dated Tuesday, January 20th.
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? All in favor? We have a unanimous vote with the student member concurring.
President Evans, I move to approve the meeting minutes from the meeting January 20th. This is meeting number 2. There's closed session and also business meeting.
Could you just one at a time?
They're lumped together, but sure. Sorry, for closed session.
All right.
Second.
I have a second, and we did have discussion on that in closed session, so we won't have any discussion. We'll move to the vote. All in favor? All right, very good. We have a unanimous vote.
President Evans, I have a motion, I motion to approve the meeting minutes, the business meeting minutes from January 20th, 2026. Second.
Very good. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? All right, we'll move to the vote. All in favor? All right. We have unanimous decision with the student member concurring. Thank you, Ms. Beachley. And next, we will go on to the superintendent's report.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Evans. Members of the board, we'll begin this evening with a celebration. We have some highly distinguished constitutional experts joining us this evening. Boonesboro High School's We the People team clinched their 11th straight championship title and will be moving on to compete at the national level. Mr. Scott Berman, our high school social studies content specialist, is joining us to share more details about the honorees.
Good evening, Dr. Savine and members of the board. Tonight, we'd like to recognize students who competed and were victorious at the We the People state competition held in Annapolis on December 15th, 2025. We the People is a simulated congressional hearing providing students an opportunity to demonstrate their knowledge and understanding of constitutional principles and ideas. These students will prepare for the national competition on April 16th through the 20th. This is the 11th consecutive year that Boonesboro High School has advanced to the national competition. This evening, we are joined by team members, student coaches, and Miss Ashley Bassick, the team advisor. I'll call each person forward to receive their certificate from the board. Luna Alvarez. Cameron Beer. Oliver Beverungen. Nick Elliott. Eric Lee. Owen Leznowski. Sarah McLaren. Lisa Miller. Ayanna Palmer. Karna Reddy. Evan Tall. Matthew Valance. Chloe Zimmerman. And now the student coaches. Haley Ballantyne. Eliza Bird. Stephen Hartz. Naomi Mojibola. And their advisor, Miss Ashley Bassick. Not able to join us, but members of the team, Beckham Bouchatti, Trent Holler, Skyland Menser, Connor Permenter, Colin Schaefer, Barrett Shoemaker, Nathan Tesfaye, Zoe Owens, and Natalie Ware.
Sorry, board members, I know you can jump.
Okay. Good smiles here, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right, one more for good measure. 1, 2, 3. Congratulations.
And if you see these students, wish them best of luck at Nationals.
Are you good, Dr. Savant? Oh, very good. Sorry, I didn't realize we were waiting on me. So I just want to say one thing, to put things in perspective on that. They said this is the 11th straight year that they won that. That means if a kid is a senior, the last time they were not in the state, the last time they didn't win the state, that kid would have been first grade, and some kids wouldn't have even been in school yet. So I think that's very impressive. Anyway, with that being said, we will move on to our next agenda item, which is public comment. So we will start out first on the list. We have James Ryan Spencer Shields. Oh, yes, thank you. We will, do I have the policy here? Sorry, before I call James, our public policy, or our public comment policy is each person willing to address the Board of Education is required to sign up to speak prior to the meeting or by signing the log located at the back of the auditorium prior to public comment. Speakers may address any topic concerning Washington County Public Schools education environment, student well-being, and school operations. Comments that fall outside these parameters, including personnel or student matters which clearly identify an individual or individuals, will be deemed inappropriate and redirected to be addressed in a different forum. Each speaker may speak for up to 4 minutes. A timer will be used for each speaker. Once the speaker begins, the timer will be started and a green light will be displayed. When the speaker has 30 seconds remaining in their allotted time, a yellow light will be displayed on the timer. When the speaker's 4 minutes have elapsed, a tone will sound and a red light will be displayed on the timer, indicating the speaker's allotted time has ended and the speaker's microphone will be turned off. Any speaker who is unable to conclude their comments within the allotted 4 minutes may submit the remainder of their comments in writing to the Board of Education via email to boe@wcps.k12.md.us, by U.S. mail, or by providing a written copy of their comments to the Board of Education at the meeting. Now, I'd like to introduce our first speaker, is James Ryan Spencer Shields here. Okay.
I'm here.
We will move on. Is Kathleen O'Reilly here?
Good evening, President Evans, Dr. Sovine, and members of the board. My name is Kathy O'Reilly. I am an educational support professional in Washington County Public Schools, a Washington County taxpayer, and I also serve as a year-round organizer with the Maryland State Education Association. I'm speaking tonight in my personal capacity, but my perspective is informed both by my lived experience and my professional work supporting school employees across this county. During the February 3rd work session, a thought was shared that taxpayers in Washington County may not want the board to continue asking for additional funding from the county. I would like to add context to that discussion. There are 1,232 teachers and 1,126 educational support professionals who live in Washington County and pay Washington County taxes. Many of us also pay city taxes. According to the WCPS website, we serve approximately 22,722 students. That means thousands of parents and guardians in this community are also taxpayers. So when we talk about taxpayers, we are not talking about a separate group of people. We are talking about the very individuals who work in our schools and the families whose children attend them. As both a taxpayer and someone who works closely with employees across classifications, I believe it is important to recognize that many taxpayers do value investment in the people educating and caring for their children. In my role as a year-round organizer, I speak regularly with employees across this county, members and non-members, instructional and non-instructional. The themes I hear are consistent. Wages have not kept pace with the cost of living. Health insurance increases continue to erode take-home pay. Employees are making difficult decisions simply to remain in their positions. Some ESP employees hold 2 or 3 jobs. Some rely on SNAP benefits or visit food banks. Some struggle to maintain stable housing. Some even sell their plasma monthly. I have had conversation with colleagues cut short because they have had to literally rush out of the door to make it to their second job. That is not rhetoric, that is reality. The issue is not about excess. It is not about unrealistic expectations. It is about sustainability. When employees are stretched across multiple jobs in order to survive, it impacts retention, focus, and morale. When turnover increases, positions remain vacant, and experienced staff leave for better paying districts. Students feel that instability first. Stability in staffing directly supports stability in learning environments. Washington County is a community that values its schools. It values safe classrooms, consistent bus routes, clean facilities, supported teachers, and cared for students. All of those functions rely heavily on education support professionals. A living wage is not a luxury request. It is a baseline measure of whether a workforce can remain in place long-term. It is an investment in continuity, not an example of unchecked spending. There is a shared duty here to taxpayers, employees, and most importantly, students. Those groups overlap more than we sometimes acknowledge. So when we talk about what taxpayers want, I simply want or ask that we remember that taxpayers are sitting in our classrooms, working in our cafeterias, driving our buses, assisting in our offices, and supporting instruction every single day. Workforce sustainability is student stability. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. O'Reilly. Next up, we have Roger Stenerson.
Hello, Mr. Evans, Dr. Sovine, and board members. As you know, I'm Roger Stenerson speaking on behalf of Rising to Learn, a nonprofit organization that follows the actions of the Board of Education and reports them to the public. Members of the public are invited to join us by navigating to our website, risingtolearn.com. This evening, I ask that you, as a board, reflect on the outcomes of your work over the past 14 months to determine your success. Stakeholders have increasing concerns about the loss of experienced, talented, dedicated professionals who are leaving or who have left WCPS. Over the past 14 months, we've seen the departure of both the school system's chief legal counsel and the deputy legal counsel. Those positions remain vacant. The absence of consistent in-house legal guidance weakens an important layer of oversight and increases the risk of decisions that may not fully align with policy and law, including the Open Meetings Act. Strong legal guidance is essential to protect the integrity and compliance of our school system. The board's Policy and Review Committee has not met since July due to the lack of a liaison who in the past has been the chief legal counsel. The departure of the Director of Special Education and the elimination of the position of Supervisor of Equity and Excellence under your watch have impacted the work of ensuring and advancing equity and inclusion necessary to meet the needs of all Washington County Public School students. They raise concern about your intent and the school system's obligations to maintain the strong and consistent support on which our students and its employees depend. The loss of an experienced and highly regarded associate superintendent, a deputy communications officer, and building-level administrators, as well as teachers, could be attributed to the lack of a positive and supportive working culture. These losses undermine stability and the forward momentum of WCPS. Leaving positions unfilled and eliminating others negatively impacts the effectiveness of the school system and the work of its employees. At what point does continuing to eliminate positions and shifting those responsibilities onto already overburdened staff undermine the excellence we should all be striving for? A culture of fear and discouragement, overburdening and undervaluing is not conducive to excellent employee performance. Remember, employee performance impacts student success. This board has not adhered to its own policies regarding meetings and has altered policies to align with the personal agendas of individual members while touting the importance of safety and security and bemoaning out-of-control students. This board was unsupportive of increasing the number of much-needed school security officers proposed by the superintendent in his recommended budget last year. It comes with little surprise and deep concern that now WCPS is losing its superintendent. Dr. Sovine has consistently modeled a positive, collaborative approach to his work, provided highly effective leadership, and is recognized in our community and in the states of Maryland and Virginia as a transformative leader. These are outcomes of this board's actions and conduct over the past 14 months. Increasing concerns from the community extend beyond what can be presented to you in just 4 minutes this evening. Rising to Learn urges you to reflect, to reassess, and to do better. Be strong advocates for funding necessary to address the increasing needs of our students and to provide livable and competitive wages to all Washington County Public School students. I have a copy printed for you here, which I'll provide to your secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Stenerson. We will move on to Carol Mowen.
Good evening, President Evans, Dr. Sovine, members of the board. I'm Carol Mowen, the president of the Washington County Teachers Association. During the month of March, the Maryland State Education Association donates a collection of books to one school in each district to highlight MSEA's commitment to Read Across America. As the WCTA president, I have coordinated the school selection for our county over the last several years and have organized local events to observe Read Across America here. This year's local event will be on Monday, March 2nd at Fountaindale Elementary School, beginning at 9 a.m. This will kick off the month of MSEA visits across the state. MSEA President Paul Lemley will be here in Hagerstown to read to students and share remarks, and Dr. Sovine will also be there to share comments and read with students. In addition, as per the email invitation that I sent to President Evans on February the 10th, I'm hopeful that he or another representative of this Board of Education will be able to attend. The guests will be reading to a class of first graders at Fountaindale in a classroom where I have been volunteering as a super reader tutor with the Education Foundation of Washington County since September. I want to thank Fountaindale's principal, Ms. Jennifer Clinton, for hosting the event this year, and the lead teacher and classroom teacher there who are welcoming us to spend time with this special group of students. The Read Across America mission is to inspire a lifelong love of reading, When we read books that highlight and reflect the diversity in our world, our understanding of the world expands. Many of us English teachers explain to our students that books can be both windows and mirrors. They can expand our understanding of other cultures, historical time periods, and experiences we do not have ourselves, like we're looking into a window to that world. Or books can be like mirrors that reflect our own personal experiences, cultures, and families. Read Across America began in 1998 as an initiative of the National Education Association, and since then has been guided by a committee of educators and has expanded from a one-day or one-month event to include year-round reading activities that focus on motivating children and teens to read through sponsored events, partnerships, and reading resources that are about everyone and for everyone. The books donated by MSEA provide a variety of titles that students can see themselves reflected in, as well as books that allow readers to see a world or character that might be different from them, both windows and mirrors. Teachers know that readers who feel included, recognized, and a part of the world they are reading about are engaged readers, and that is what we want for all of our students in our classrooms. The books donated by MSEA are collectively less than $400 in value, but are rich in diversity. The book list has been reviewed by Ann Anders, our Supervisor of Library Media and Instructional Technology for WCPS, to ensure that they meet the requirements of books donated to WCPS school libraries. On this year's list, 4 of the titles come in both English and Spanish versions, which is a great benefit in that they are not simply translations, but different versions written by the same author. I hope that Mr. Evans or another member of the board can attend the event. Please let me know so we can prepare accordingly. In addition, I have printed out a copy of this year's book list in case you would like to read them, and will be posting the titles on the WCTA website so other teachers and parents can access the book list, either purchase the titles for themselves or check them out of area libraries to share with their children. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mallon. Next on our list, we have Ken Lesher.
Thank you, Board, and Dr. Savine for allowing me this time to speak. I'm Ken Lesher. I'm from Williamsport High School. I teach business ed. Go Wildcats. And I want to wish all the best for the wrestlers coming up with the county and incredible sports. The purpose of my speaking tonight is I want to talk about teachers as a person. Last time I spoke, I talked about respect, how it is earned and not giving. I would like to start with a quote, if you don't mind. Those who know do. Those that understand teach. Aristotle. Very powerful statement that has lived through time. Teachers, educators live in many worlds. We are parents, grandparents, parents to even some of our children that we teach. So what we deal with in life, we also absorb from what we see in the classroom. Teaching is a very stressful profession. As of right now, it is not considered a profession, which if I look at anybody, yes, we are. We are professionals. We make professionals. Our dividends are not seen well down the road. I've had the pleasure of teaching students that are now teachers, students that are going for their doctorate degrees in some incredible fields, work in the medical fields. Those make teaching worth it. Even when we have our bad days, we know one day we're going to see the dividends for the community. And that's our purpose. We are also involved in the community, doing charity work, supporting other teachers as well, but more importantly, the community. And sometimes with the environment of society, we have become ridiculed. We still hold our heads up. we still show up, and we still do what we're supposed to do. If it wasn't for an educator, myself and all of us included, a lot of us would not be where we are today. So I just wanted to bring these points to everyone, that we do serve a great purpose along with others. We are the foundation, part of that foundation, and one day the kids that we teach will be the leaders of this country. And I would like to end with another quote. I think the teaching profession contributes more to the future of our society than any other single profession. John Wooden, if anybody's a basketball fan, they would know this man. And he has coached some incredible people. Again, I would say we earn our respect, we don't deserve it. And I will live by that as well as many others. And thank you for the privilege of speaking, and I am honored to be able to speak for other teachers. Thank you and have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. We'll move on to, and I apologize if I mispronounce this name, Heather Puzis? Puzis. Yeah. I apologize. Thank you.
It's okay, no worries, it happens a lot. I apologize for looking at my phone, I just have my notes on my phone. Good evening, President Evans, Dr. Savine, and members of the board. I'm Heather Puzis, I'm a teacher at Eastern Elementary School. I've worked for Washington County Public Schools since 2016. I've been here my whole career. I started here as soon as I graduated high school, or college, and I went to elementary, middle, and high school here. So I've been in Washington County my whole life. And I want to share some concerns related to the fiscal year 2027 proposed budget. Each year as teachers, we're told that teachers and our educational support personnel are highly valued. We're told that our relationships with our students, our instructional expertise are what drives the academic success of our students. We're told that our work matters, and we know that that's true. We see it every day. However, we're concerned that we don't see that message reflected in the proposed general fund budget for the fiscal year 2027. During discussion about the proposed budget for next year at the February 3rd work session, we were disappointed that there were no board members who requested more information from Dr. Savine about the 1% salary resource pool for employee raises. No one questioned how that number could be increased. And I'm here to speak for my colleagues, and they would agree 1% is not enough. We need raises that address the rising costs of energy, increases in our healthcare costs, and increases in our grocery bills and basic living necessities. Each dollar we're earning this year doesn't buy what dollars did 5 years ago. We all know that. And incremental salary increases we've received over recent years have just not kept up with rising costs of living. So before you vote to adopt the superintendent's proposed budget as your proposed budget, please consider the message that 1% salary resource pool is sending to employees. Does it send the message that WCPS staff are valued, or does it send the message that we could easily be replaced? Do you believe that 1% is enough? I hope that's not the case, and I hope that you will find a way to increase the salary resource pool and ensure that our educational support personnel especially, as well as our teachers, are provided with wages, salaries, and benefits that reflect our service, years of experience, and address the increasingly high costs of living, such as food, energy, and healthcare. I speak, for myself, and I think most teachers would agree, but I do want to reiterate that part, especially about ESP. Some of our ESP are the least paid people in the county. And I just want to reiterate something that somebody else said. A lot of them working 2 and 3 jobs. They're not earning enough to live, and they do so much work for us. So on behalf of myself and my colleagues, I just want to leave you with the message that 1% is not enough. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Pusis. Next, we'll move up to Jamie Bowden.
Good evening. Before you start the time, I am not Jamie Bowden. She was unable to be with us tonight, but I teach in her building, and I have her prepared comments that I would like to share. So these are Jamie Bowden's comments.
Please give us your name.
Sure, I'm Christy Gross. Good evening, President Evans, Dr. Savine, and members of the board. I am Jamie Bowden, a teacher at North Hagerstown High School. I am here tonight to share comments related to your February 3rd work session discussions. As Mr. Gesford noted during that meeting, investments in pre-kindergarten program expansion has produced outstanding results. That is good news. It's also good news that the proposed operating budget has additional positions to support student success in several specific areas, including the expansion of special education programs and classes at the elementary level, more pre-kindergarten teachers and paraprofessionals, and more teachers for specific programming needs, which are supported through the Blueprint funding formula. This is all very good news. However, even with the increased revenue from the Blueprint, from both the state and the county budgets, we still do not have adequate funding to meet the needs of all our students and schools, or to address the rising cost of living for your employees. I urge you to reconsider whether to ask the county for what is truly needed, rather than to only request the amount required by law, as was noted in the February 3rd presentation about the proposed budget. If the county didn't have additional revenue, that would be one thing. But for the last several years, the county has had over $20 million in surplus funding each fall that could have been put toward those items that are either cut from our budgets or have to be delayed, like HVAC renovations to fix the heating and air conditioning problems in many schools, like North Hagerstown High School. As the county's wealth increases, so does the expectation for the county to provide additional funding to ensure that our public schools have the resources needed for all students. As you deliberate this evening on the proposed budget, I urge you to ask for what we need, and that includes an adequate raise for teachers and a living wage for our educational support personnel. You must know that 1% is not enough. The budget decisions should not be choosing whether to decide between adding additional staff for special education programs or providing a salary resource pool that addresses the cost of inflation, especially when we know that the surpluses the county has each fall could have been allocated for the needs that we have in our schools. Finally, I'll leave you with this thought. If you think you can't afford to take care of your teachers with more than a 1% increase, does that mean you think you can afford to lose us? Thank you very much.
Next, we have Ricky Lauer.
Good evening, President Evans, Dr. Savine, and members of the board. My name is Ricky Lauer, and I am a teacher at Emma K. Daub Elementary School. I'm here to share concerns about teacher retention and how compensation directly affects our ability to keep excellent educators at our schools. Across the country, teacher turnover and attrition are significant challenges. Research shows that nearly 44% of new teachers leave the profession within their first 5 years, and many cite compensation as a key reason for leaving. Every year, a sizable share of teachers either leave teaching entirely or move to different schools and districts, contributing to instability that affects students, schools, and school districts. In addition, for teachers who stay, salaries lag behind those of other college-educated professionals. On average, teachers earn 26 to 30% less than other peers with similar education levels, a gap that's widening rather than, it's widening rather than narrowing in recent years. This is called the teacher pay penalty. According to the Economic Policy Institute and the National Council on Teacher Retirement, teacher salaries have fallen significantly behind other professions requiring similar education, reaching a record 26.9% pay penalty in 2024, where teachers earn roughly 73 cents on the dollar compared to other college-educated professionals. This fails to keep pace with inflation. It's not just about fairness, it's about continuity for students and the long-term success of our schools. When teachers feel that their professional contributions are valued, including through high competitive pay, research finds that retention improves and students benefit. Washington County attracts teachers with strong starting salaries, but after benefiting from early career investments in professional development, teachers leave for higher mid-career salaries in Pennsylvania and to other Maryland counties who are glad to get fully trained teachers with experience from Washington County in their classrooms. When this happens, the taxpayers and students of Washington County are losing out. Washington County teaching force should not be considered the region's training ground. Strong retention is essential for a strong school system. The salary resource pool of 1% is not sufficient to address the rising costs of living or to show your veteran teachers that you care about our experience in this county. I ask you to reconsider your budget decisions and do what it takes to make sure that you reward teachers for their service to this county and keep them here after you invested in their mentoring and training, rather than losing them to other counties, other states, and other professions. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Lauer. Next on the list, we have Benjamin Loudenslager.
Good evening, President Evans, Dr. Sovine, and other distinguished members of the board. My name is Ben Loudenslager, and I'm a student at Boonesboro High School. I'm here to support the virtual instruction contingency plan presented by Dr. Willow. While in-person classroom learning remains the best approach for most students, a reliable backup plan for extended bad weather is a practical step for our district. Maryland state requirements mandate at least 4 hours of synchronous instruction on virtual days, and this plan effectively meets that standard without relying on endless passive lectures. The plan emphasizes small group instruction via Google Meet, with one-on-one support provided as needed for students who require extra help. This structure promotes meaningful engagement in real learning rather than just assigning busy work. It's especially beneficial for maintaining progress without extending the school year into late June, which benefits students, families, and staff alike. One of the strongest features of this plan is its fairness and restraint. Virtual instruction will only be activated after the district has fully exhausted all 6 built-in inclement weather days in the calendar. This ensures it's truly a last resort, used only when necessary to avoid excessive disruptions or make-up days later. While I understand the plan provides robust small group and personalized support, particularly for all students, it still offers valuable structured synchronous learning for secondary students like me at the high school level, helping us stay on track with our coursework. Overall, this is balanced, thoughtful, and a realistic approach to handling severe weather challenges. I respectfully urge the board to allow the superintendent to implement the plan if needed. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Loudenslager. Next, we have Ethan Lowen.
Good evening. I'm Ethan Lowen, and I want to talk about the budget, as many other people have this evening. And really, one of the most worst things about the budget is that I believe the teachers' increase in pay was 1% for the year, which obviously is well below inflation. And I believe this is the second year that it's below inflation. But of course, the issue is why, right? Because these things don't happen for no reason. Nobody chooses to not give people substandard pay. There's a reason for it. So what happened? Now, in a meeting in February 16th of 23, there was a blueprint presentation, and I stated in that meeting that this blueprint was so big that it was going to overtake the entire state's budget. Everything. It was just going to eat up everything. On March 1st of 2024, so about 11 months later, I discussed that the governor announced that he was shocked at how large the state deficit had blown out all expectations. I mean, not if you listened to that blueprint presentation a year earlier, there's nothing shocking about it. Then the year later, February 18th, 25, last year, I discussed that the governor was for a second year shocked at how large the budget deficit had exploded beyond anyone's expectations as a result of Blueprint. I also became the only person I know of in that meeting who also pointed out that with that year's budget, state pensions were put at risk. 2 months after I said that, Maryland's pensioners were shocked, once again, to learn that for the first time in Maryland's history, negative changes were made to the teachers' pensions. Extra pensions were cut. Exactly what extra pensions are, I don't know, but it's bad. A greater amount of health care costs were passed down to pensioners, but worst of all is a portion of the teachers' pensions was moved from the state budgets to the county's budget, simply in order to try to make Maryland's deficit not look as bad, so they just took it from the state calling on taxpayers to pay something that can't be imported to county commissioners being forced to call upon taxpayers to pay something that can't be affordable. Finally, last year, Maryland's bond rating was cut as well, which is very bad. And this year, the damage to pensions only gets worse because Maryland's budget deficit mandates that 50% of all the increase in pension costs is not going to be carried by the state, as has always been done. It's going to be forced upon the county commissioners for only the reason that it's unaffordable. Maryland wants to avoid having to face the music so that others can be blamed. It's a travesty. It's an absolute travesty. And the question is why, right? Because obviously, I know the budget, but am I such a genius that the governor's office didn't understand the budget either? Am I such a genius that the teachers union, who has several people who that's their entire job is to go through the budget and look for ways to increase spending, they really understand it better than I did? And the answer is no. So the question is, why is this happening? Why are we forced into this situation? Well, it's because of the teachers union. Let's put it this way. If you look at the increase in central office spending just over the last 10 years, above and beyond the in-school face-to-face spending, if you just took that spending and brought it back down to the level of the in-school spending, instead of the, I think, 3 times more, I believe all of the pay increases that are being asked for, plus another $1,000+ a year would be met, right? We've gone from, 40 years ago, about 2/3 of public school staff being student-facing to less than 50%, right? Why? Right? Because academic performance has dropped. It's all manufactured. It's all artificial. And the last people to be left hanging are the teachers only because of the PR purposes of their suffering. Thank you.
Mr. Lowen. Next up, we have Emily Agresto.
Good evening. 1 second. Good evening, Dr. Sovine and President Evans and other members of the board. My name is Emily Agresto. I'm a student at Boonesboro High School. And tonight I'm here to talk to you about the temperatures in our schools. So school temperature is very, very important to the success of student learning. And it's a struggle that many students have to deal with every day. They have to deal with it at Boonesboro High School, North High. I've heard from probably about over 100 students of just how bad some of the heating and cooling systems are in Washington County schools. I know from personal experience that I wear many layers every day at school. You know, I take up the t-shirt, the hoodie, sometimes a jacket. I've even measured in one room one day, it went from 65 degrees to 88 degrees. It's just unacceptable. It's really hard to learn and focus in an environment like that. And these temperatures are just grueling. Like, you can't learn, you can't comprehend. And studies show that temperatures between 70 and 78 degrees are optimal for reading and comprehension. So especially for the little young kids in elementary school, that is going to be just really important for them. Actually, I did go to Pleasant Valley Elementary, and I remember there being some really good heating and air conditioning there. So not terrible in every school, I will say, but some high schools do need that update. Again, North High, I've heard countless, testimonies from other students that the layering, they take up the layering. Everyone layers. I mean, it's all high school students, I feel like, take that skill up. But I'm urging you guys to maybe look at your budget, take some action for new HVAC systems. I know Boonesboro, we're getting maybe a little bit of an update over the summer, but adequate temperature, it's not a luxury. It's, we're just requesting room temperatures that make us feel like we can learn. So thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a great evening.
Thank you, Mr. Gresto. Next on the list, we have Brian Lynn.
Hello, my name is Brian Lin, and I'm a student from Williamsport High School. First of all, hello and good evening to the members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am advocating for the adoption of the virtual learning plans on inclement weather days. This year, we have seen the largest snowstorm in Maryland since the last decade. This led to the school closure for entire 4 days. Unlike in the 1990s, where technology wasn't that good, right now our technology has advanced, and each student are empowered with individual Chromebooks, which means they can do online schools, and teachers are already used to the digital learning platform. So to prevent extending the school year, in case we have any more snow days, I hope that the board can implement. So after we pass 6 days of the snow days, right? After that, every day will become a virtual day. Sorry, it's my first time doing a board meeting.
You're doing a good job.
Thank you. Moving to remote instructions on snow days ensure that students do not fall behind academically and that our school calendars remain stable without extending the school year into the middle of summer. This proposal will also provide relief to parents who are worried that whether they need to delay their summer plans in case future snow days. I believe every student has already been issued a Chromebook, so there should be no issue with virtual snow days. Teachers are already familiar with digital learning platforms they use daily. These are the reasons why I am supporting the adoption of virtual snow days. Thank you for your time, members of the board.
Thank you, Mr. Lin. And last on our list, we have Sean Porter.
Your YouTube was down earlier. I don't know if you know that, your YouTube live feed.
Looks like you got that taken care of.
Yeah, I just can't trust y'all, sorry. I wanted to correct some incorrect statements that were made by the Rising to Learn communist bald-headed old guy back there. He said that you guys got rid of your 2 ambulance chasers and you didn't have any sort of legal consultation or ability to consult with attorneys. I know for a fact that WCPS retains the services of Miles and Stockbridge out of Baltimore. One of the partners there, Veronica Jackson, represents WCPS. I've talked to her several times in the past year since your general counsel left, and then her, I guess, deputy counsel or whatever you call that individual. So the statement that you guys have no legal representation is completely false. As far as criticizing the board for David Sovine leaving, one of the main reasons I was supportive of the current board members was because they did not like David Sovine, or at least that was my perception, and that he was going to be kicked out on his keister for the actions that he took while my son had to deal with WCPS. And for your history and your track record of supporting LGBTQ trans crap and doing horrible things to students not letting disabled students go to school because they couldn't wear face masks in Virginia when you were down there in Frederick County. So I'm glad to see you go. That is not a flaw of the board. That is actually a function of that board being elected. They were elected for reform. We're getting the reform that we wanted. So to say that somehow David Sabine is leaving because he doesn't like the current board is ridiculous. He's leaving because the current board is not renewing his contract or offering him a new one, and they didn't want to buy his ass out to get him out any sooner. So anyhow, the other thing I want to talk about is the Epstein list. No one in Washington County politics is on the Epstein list except for Commissioner Derek Harvey. 9 times he appears on the Epstein list. Remember that when you go to vote this Republican primary. The teachers are here complaining about 1% pay raises. I just want to point out that the commissioners tomorrow at 4:30 at 100 West Washington Street have a salary increase commission study tomorrow. You guys can attend. It's open to the public at 4:30, wherein they're going to give themselves an 8.14% pay raise. It's stocked full of people who are friends with the county commissioners to do like a civilian review board to see if an 8.14% increase for the commissioner's pay is warranted. I'm sure that all these people who are friends of the commissioners, like that Mr. Fry fella, are going to in fact support them getting their pay raises. So if you're concerned about a 1% pay raise for teachers, that does sound like it's not keeping up with inflation. I can assure you 8.14% for the commissioners, they're not going to notice a thing. Real quick, this is Commissioner John Barr getting an 8.14% pay raise wearing a snakeskin suit. Just so you know, this gentleman supported Governor Wes Moore, a Democrat, and gave him $250 on August 1st by credit card. He endorsed him in October, and then he got kickbacks in the form of electrical subsidies for solar panel installation to the tune of $17 million in the state fund that was not previously allocated. That's basically going to go into the pocket of people like John Barr, specifically John Barr, and I think some guy named Mr. Eby, some kind of a farmer. Real quick, anyone concerned with the budget, if you voted for Wes Moore, he reduced our funding to WCPS this past year by millions of dollars. So if you voted for Wes Moore, you're getting what you paid for. And if you're a teacher complaining about not getting a pay raise, why don't you try voting Republican, okay? If you want to keep voting for people like Matt Schindler, House of Delegates, who votes like a communist, though he's a nice guy, he's going to continue to cut the pay and the reimbursement to Washington County, put the burden on the county, and you're going to end up with 1% pay raises. So don't go blaming any Republican on this board for your pay raises, because the money's not there because Governor Wes Moore doesn't give it to anyone but his corrupt little friends like Commissioner John Barr. Anyhow, guys, remember that when it comes time to vote, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. That concludes our public comment for the day. Board members, Charlie, anything? Ashley?
Yeah,
Oh,
just real
sorry.
quick. You know, as I sit up here, I'm a people's person, whether some people want to believe that or not, and I like to see people succeed. I'm a janitor by trade. I've said that half a dozen times up here. But to sit up here and listen to people take the attitude that we aren't listening, we may not care, things like that, is disheartening, to say the least, because I think we all up here care. I did some quick figuring here. First of all, our teachers, the starting teacher in this county makes $20,000 more than I make. Their starting pay averages out to about $37 an hour. We have ESPs who are only making $17 and $18 an hour. Do teachers deserve more? I think they do deserve a little more. Do our ESPs deserve a lot more? I think they deserve a lot more. Where do we come up with that money? It's easy to pick on the little guy, the county commissioners. But I would ask you, where is the outcry to the state who is mandating things that we have to do, and yet they're not funding us? They're telling us, you got to do this, you got to do that, but they're not giving us any extra money to do it, and they're taking money. So, teachers, please understand, I don't think anybody on this board would not want to give you more money. ESPs, you deserve a lot more money. You could go to work at most places around here making $20, $22 an hour. So for what it's worth, I think all of our employees are appreciated. You work hard. Later on in my general comments, I'll make other comments about schools I've been in recently, but I've seen teachers at work. You love your job, you love what you're doing, or you wouldn't be doing it.
Ashley?
I'm just so happy with all the students and teachers and professionals who showed up tonight to talk. It is incredible when we have the ability to hear you take that extra step in the evening when you have other things to do to educate us on how you educate our kids and our kids are educated. Thank you so much for coming.
Yes, I would also like to bring attention to all the students that have been able to testify tonight. I have had the pleasure of reading a few of the testimonies that they have prepared, and I am incredibly proud of every single student that has shown up and made sure that their voice has been heard. A lot of these students are involved in the Washington County Association of Student Councils and are planning to attend the Advocacy Day we are hosting in March of this year, which is an amazing opportunity. I'm glad that everyone starts to learn that. However, I would also like to say I am a direct result of all the teachers in my community. Every single teacher has supported me to get to this position, and anytime I walk into my school building, I know that I am safe, and I know that I'm surrounded by people who will do anything that they can to support me as a student. And I just really hope that we continue to recognize teachers and ESP for everything that they do for us students, because if I walked into my school and there wasn't as great as the community as there is, I wouldn't be as motivated to come. All right, thank you guys.
I just want to thank everybody again for coming out and speaking. We always appreciate hearing from you. Don't ever stop. We need to hear what you have to say, and we're happy to hear it. So thank you.
And I'll just finish by saying thank you, especially to all the students. I know it's not easy coming up to speak, especially when you got a bunch of old fogies like us up here. So we really do appreciate it. And well, sorry, you're right, Linda, you're more youthful than I am. But you know, I know it's not easy to go and do that, especially knowing you're on TV too. So you know, you guys did a great job. We appreciate hearing from you. And I'd just like to kind of piggyback off of what Mr. Burka was saying about the budget. You know, this is just one example of budgetary items that have increased due to Blueprint. And I'm not saying this is good, bad, or indifferent. It's just a fact that in 2023, the cost to our budget for National Board Certified Teachers was $126,000. This year, we're going to spend over $1.5 million. That's 4 budget cycles. In just 4 budget cycles, that line item has increased 1,091%. So it isn't easy, but there are certain mandates, and you know, times have changed. We do want to do a lot more, and you know, I'm not saying we're not going to do more, but I'm saying it's going to be extremely difficult to do more. And I understand why people would be upset with us, because at the end of the day, it's our budget. It's got our name on it. But please know that we really do think about these things. We do try to do what we can to show you guys that we do appreciate you. But believe me, it's not as easily said as it is done. So we do appreciate you coming up to speak to us. But you know, like I said, we will continue to work to show you that we do care. So with that being said, Dr. Savine, did you want to add anything to that? Very good. We'll move on to the next item, which is old business. We have none. And then we'll go on to the consent agenda with Mr. Bechtel.
Good evening, members of the board. Dr. Sovine. Tonight I have 6 items for your review. These items were reviewed by our Purchasing Review Committee, and they're being recommended for approval, and staff is available if you have any additional questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bechtel. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the awards, renewals, and procurements as presented in the consent agenda.
Mr. Burkett? Thank you, Ms. Dr. Zentmeyer, sorry. Do we have any discussion?
Sorry. Okay, that doesn't move. So number 5 for the social studies textbooks. We just had a CNI meeting where high school we do every 6 years. Is there a reason that we're doing every 5 for middle school? I figured we need some.
Dr. Willow, I think will probably be able to address that.
So we did 5 years on this because we have a 10-year plan. And what we try to do is take the amount and make sure that we're not going over our instructional material budget. So if you remember math, I think elementary was 3 years. And so what we try to do is when we have big purchases, we don't want the renewal to hit the same year. So that way, if we do 3, 4, 5, we look at the price, the best price that we can get for the number of years, but we try to keep things spread apart so that it never goes beyond our budget in any one given year.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, not on that, but on a different one, the internet service provider. Question, so I see that that was the contract from 2019. I don't know that we have the bid, I could be wrong. From then, I see that this is a renewal, but my question is because I believe since 2019, we've had a large competitor come into the area. I know I get a lot of flyers in my mail, and I'm just wondering, would it make sense to quote that out?
So this bid was done back in 2019 as an E-rate bid. So we couldn't just quote it back out without going through that E-rate process again. The E-rate.
Yeah, what is that?
E-rate's a federal program where we get between 70 and 80%, I believe, of the amount that we spend back in funds for, they go back into the, I believe, general fund. So next year we will bid this again, but it's just not one of those things that we can, we'd have to, it would be the whole bid process again that would be required. I mean, just reaching out to somebody and saying, what's your price? Then we'd be paying the full price of that bid. If we did
I'm
that.
sorry, can you explain E-rate again, just for someone who doesn't understand? Like,
Thank you.
sorry.
I know Mr. Allen's coming up behind me, which is even more in-depth knowledge, but E-rate is a federal fund that provides reimbursements back to school districts in general, but there are other agencies, for investing in critical technology infrastructure. So,
Student-facing, I believe.
student-facing infrastructure. So, when we talk about internet service, when we talk about, I think, we have wireless access points on here, any number of various bids that we do, we can get reimbursements back on that. If we were to choose not to do this renewal, for starters, it needs a full bid because I think in total it exceeds $100,000. So anything over 50 would need to be bid, so we'd have to go back out and redo the entire bid process. There's one renewal left, so within the next school year, we'll be doing that full renewal and opening that up. Truthfully, at the time that we, I think, did this bid the last time, one of those providers was coming into the network and had a plan, but none of their infrastructure was built out. So, those are some of the struggles. There are, 2 or 3 providers now within this community. There's a likelihood that we'll see better competition in the next go-around, but at the same time, as a school system, we've had really good service under this contract for quite a long time, so there really is no reason, and I don't believe the rates have really changed materially, so there's been no reason really to reshop that while we have available bids to us, and some limitations on the staffing within our procurement team as well. So sometimes we utilize those renewals and longer bid terms to spread the work of what is a four-man team in the purchasing department.
So if we do, when we do rebid it, it's not necessarily the E-rate getting reimbursed isn't dependent on who we use, it's just rather how the process goes to bid that
Correct.
out.
And E-rate bids are much more complicated than our own bids.
Sure, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? I actually asked a question about putting the bid out too during finance committee meetings, so, yeah. You're spot on.
I could have let you answer the question.
Yeah, no, you guys did better than I did. Very good. If there's no other questions, we'll move to the vote. All in favor? We have a unanimous vote with the student member concurring. Thank you, Mr. Bakedal. Thank you. And next, we'll keep Mr. Prue here along with Mr. Sisler, and we will look at a budget transfer.
Yep, the item before you is budget adjustments for the current fiscal year, FY26. These adjustments reflect movement of allocations within the general fund budget across categories. They've been reviewed by the Finance Committee, and with the board's consent this evening and approval on these adjustments, we are tentatively scheduled to present these to the commissioners for their approval next week on the 24th. And we're happy to answer any questions you have about the movements.
Thank you, Mr. Prue. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve the proposed fiscal year 2026 budget adjustments as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Burkett. Do I have a second? Second, and I knew what you meant, so. Do we have any discussion on that? The one thing that I was looking at was the, and I asked you about this earlier today, Mr. Prue, about the money going to operations and plan. Could you explain the increase in those costs? Because that's a very, very large increase there.
Yep, there's two parts here, and I know the team is behind me for some additional support. One part here is related specifically to increases we're seeing in overall rate in our utilities. And as we discussed in the budget work session earlier today, and I think Dr. Svine made note of it in the work session 2 weeks ago, we have deferred and reduced our electricity usage by 5 million kilowatts, which is a deferral of about $700,000 in actual expense by reducing those kilowatt hours. But at the same time, our actual expense is up, and that's because the overall rate of electricity is up. The other part of this piece is in technology hardware, where you actually see in the upper section of your document, you see under instructional textbooks and supplies, you do see a savings there of $537,000. And guys, correct me, but we're recategorizing some funding in that area to technology hardware expense, which actually is part of the physical plant piece. So where you're moving it from a section to then spend it, it's funding that's planned out that does support instruction, but it's actually in technology hardware. So it has to be recategorized to associate with the expense based on the way the state has the funding categories created.
Thank you, Mr. Prue. Does anyone else have any questions? Hearing none, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor? Yeah, you could vote on that. So we have a unanimous vote with the student member concurring. And next, we will move on to the draft budget.
Good evening again, board members. The item before you is the adoption of the superintendent's FY 2027 recommended budget as the board's draft budget. With your adoption this evening, the budget will be forwarded to the one of your advisory committees, the Budget Advocacy and Review Committee, for review. A public hearing will be scheduled on the budget, I believe, at the March meeting. And then the budget really, at this point, becomes yours, that if there are changes the board members would want to make to the budget, you, of course, can make motions to move funding around, increase categories, decrease other categories. That is well within your rights as we move forward, pending your approval this evening. And the team is here if you have any further questions. But again, this has been reviewed now in 2 work sessions, the first 2 weeks ago, February 3rd, and also earlier today at 2 o'clock.
Thank you, Mr. Prue. Do I have a motion?
President Evans, I move to adopt the superintendent's FY 2027 recommended general fund budget as the Board of Education's FY 2027 draft general fund budget.
Thank you, Ms. Murray.
Second.
And I have a second from Dr. Zentmeyer. Do we have any discussion?
I would just say that earlier today when we were discussing this, I just wanted to point out, because a number of people did bring up, about us asking more money from the county. And we did discuss that earlier about the idea of going and trying to ask for some additional funds from the county.
Thank you, Mr. Berkeley. Anything else? Very good. Hearing none, we'll move to the vote. All those in favor? And we have another unanimous vote with the student member concurring. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. And we will move on to a right-of-way agreement.
Thank you again, Mr. Evans. This item is part of the construction for the Downsville Pike Elementary, just outside our windows here. It's an approval of a right-of-way agreement between the Board of Education of Washington County and the Potomac Edison Company. This is to bring the electrical service into the construction site.
Ms. Prue, do I have a motion?
President Evans, I move to approve the right-of-way agreement between the Board of Education of Washington County and Potomac Edison Company.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Do I have a second? I'll second. Thank you, Ms. Murray. Any discussion? All in favor? We have a unanimous vote with the student member concurring.
Thank you.
Thank you. And next, under new business, we have a donation to Boonesboro.
Good evening, President Evans, Dr. Sovine, and board members. I am requesting approval to accept a donation of $6,982.75 from the Boonesboro High School Athletic Boosters for the girls soccer team and the flag football team.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
President Evans, I move to approve a donation of $6,980.75 from the Boonesboro High School Athletic Boosters.
Thank you, Dr. Zentmeyer. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Beachley. Any discussion? Say that
Really grateful.
yes, we always like donations, so thank you. We'll move to the vote. All in favor? We have a unanimous vote with the student member concurring. And next, we have our virtual snow day.
Good evening, board members. Dr. Savine. I'm here this evening to ask your approval to authorize the superintendent to provide virtual instruction days to students in accordance with Washington County Public Schools inclement weather virtual plan. Just a couple of pieces of feedback before you have your discussion. We were able to put out a community survey that went to all stakeholders. We had a good participation rate that we'll look at, but there also was a little bit of confusion around what our plan is. And so we wanted to take a moment just to re-clarify what we talked about at that work session. This is not a plan that eliminates snow days. We are required to use all of the calendar days, which we currently have 6 built into our calendar. As a reminder, we've used 5 so far. Even after we use 6 days, it does not mean that we have to use this plan. What you would be approving tonight would be the superintendent's ability to implement this plan should he determine it's in our best interest. What we talked about was this isn't something we see as a, we're going to be out one day type snowstorm. We see this as what we saw a couple weeks ago in February, where we know significant amount of weather is coming and there's multiple days that we could be closed. This is an option that we could use during that time. Just some other feedback. As we discussed, we're following the process. We have to have a conversation, which we did in the work session. We had to survey our stakeholders. We had to bring this back to you for a vote. The requirement is also, it's important to note that we have to have 4 hours of synchronous instruction. That's not optional. And so our plan meets those state requirements. If we went under 4 hours, then it would not count as an official day. So just a little bit of feedback. When you look at our results, we had a healthy rate of 1,574 respondents. You can see the breakdown of community members, WCPS employees, students, parents, and guardians. When we take a look at the feedback, it's pretty even in terms of when we look at, yes, I agree with the plan as proposed, or no, I don't agree. And then we have that group in the middle that said, yes, I agree with the plan, but with modifications. So then we went through all of the comments. And just a high level, for those that said yes, and you'll find that those that said no have the opposite comments when we get to this, but those that said yes prefer virtual days over adding days at the end of the calendar year. Want a firm, predictable last day of school, and then they see virtual days as a practical calendar solution. Many of them, not all obviously, would prefer to use it prior to the 6 days. Again, just as a reminder, that's not an option here for this plan. Those who said yes with modifications would love asynchronous learning. Again, not something that we can do with this plan. We understand the reasons why, specifically with our primary age students. And I think that what we shared in our plan is that we give our teachers, especially in those primary grades, the ability to determine what's best for their students. Synchronous instruction is defined. It can be small group, it can be one-on-one, it can be whole class, so whole group. You have the ability as the teacher to determine what those 4 hours look like, because there's no plan that we could write that would cover the needs of pre-K students all the way up to our students in high school. So there is flexibility built in around the idea of the teacher knows best for their level of students based on the age group of that classroom. And then those that said no, probably again, other than maybe a little bit of confusion that we were taking away all snow days. I want to be, that's why I started with, hey, there's still 6 snow days built in. But concerns around what happens if there's no internet, what does this look like for working parents, especially for primary-aged students, all good concerns. We do have in the plan, it talks about what happens if a student doesn't have internet access. While it's not ideal, they would have the ability to make up work when they return to school. In terms of the burden on working parents, we recognize that. That's a fair concern. When we use this, we're talking about days that probably if you think back to that storm that we just had in February, probably wasn't much movement that first day. Many of us were stuck in until the roads got plowed and cleared. In fact, we had a code red that day, for WCPS. So the hope is that while we understand the parents' work and we want to be sensitive to those needs, that we can try to balance that and work around that with the schedule that we created. I would also say that this is a plan that can be updated. It's not a one and done. If we use this and we see that there is a piece to this that we need to modify, it's certainly something that we can bring back. And then again, the developmental concerns, especially elementary, which I addressed earlier, we're not advocating for 4 hours where a pre-K kindergarten teacher is teaching 4 hours straight in a virtual environment. That's not what we define as synchronous instruction. Now, at the secondary, when you have your normal schedule and you have different teachers and you're rotating and you have breaks, that's going to look a little different. But in the primary grades, specifically elementary, our plan does give flexibility to those that know their students best, and that's our teachers. Any questions for me?
Dr. Will, do I have a motion?
President Evans, having lived through extended days, extended years, extended this and that, I move to authorize the superintendent to provide virtual instruction days to students in accordance with Washington County Public Schools inclement weather virtual instruction plan for post-makeup days.
Thank you, Dr. Zimmer. Do I have a second? Thank you, Ms. Beachley. Do we have any discussion? All right. Hearing none, we appreciate the information. We'll move to the vote. All those in favor? We have a unanimous vote with the student member concurring. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we will keep Dr. Willow here to discuss the personnel actions.
I knew that. I was testing.
Yeah.
So, good evening again. I'm here to ask for your approval of personnel actions as discussed in closed session earlier.
Thank you, Dr. Willow. Do I have a motion?
President Evans, I move to approve the personnel actions dated Tuesday, February 17th, 2026, as presented in closed session.
Thank you, Ms. Beachley. I have a second from Ms. Murray. We did our discussion in closed session, so we'll move right to the vote. All those in favor? We have
Sorry.
six members concurring. Student member does not vote on this one, so that passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
President Evans, if I may, with that action of the board personnel action, I want to take this opportunity to announce the new principal at Hancock Middle Senior High School is one of our own, Mr. Andy Ketzel, current principal at Mogginsville Elementary. Also, prior to Mogginsville, served as the principal at Old Forge. Mr. Ketzel has both elementary and secondary experience. I know board members and the public will join me in congratulating Mr. Ketzel on this promotion.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll let you keep on going with your superintendent report.
Yes. Thank you, President Evans and members of the board. I would like to first thank our schools and staff for the learning experiences they provided throughout Black History Month. As I've visited schools, I've seen students engaged in research projects, creating displays to demonstrate their learning, and being engaged with guest speakers or having classroom discussions. While our students learn about Black history all year as a part of our strong curriculum, we appreciate the intentional focus February brings to honoring these stories and achievements. I'm looking forward to celebrating all of our educational support personnel tomorrow evening at the 7th Annual ESP of the Year Awards Banquet. This event highlights the critical work of our support staff across the school system. We also get to see each of our finalists, as you see highlighted in this feature video, and of course, we'll find out who will be the next ESP of the year. I want to wish all of our finalists the best of luck. We'll be inviting them back next month to recognize them in person with the board. And now I would like to take a moment for some reflection tonight. Looking back when I began my contract with Washington County Public Schools on July 1st, 2022, that time I was a new name and a new face in this community. I was excited and energized to take the next step in my education career. Especially with a district that I knew already had a strong foundation and was full of potential. Even before I took the superintendent seat, I was overwhelmed by the warm welcome I received from the Washington County community. Businesses, community organizations, parents, all reached out. They offered support. They shared ideas. They wanted to help. It was clear that everyone has a vested interest in growing this community and creating a brighter future for our students. We really are in this together. That spirit of collaboration, that belief that education is a community priority, is something I've been proud to be a part of. This evening, I'm publicly announcing I have decided not to seek another contract with WCPS. I have already shared this news with our staff, with our Board of Education, and with our closest community partners. But tonight, I wanted to share this with our greater community as well. I also want to take this opportunity to thank everyone who has played a role in making our students and our schools successful over these last 4 years. I'm incredibly proud of the academic progress we've made together, starting with our youngest learners, We achieved back-to-back all-time highs in kindergarten readiness and ranked 4th in Maryland for students entering school fully prepared. Even with a new assessment this year, WCPS continues to outperform the state average. What's even more powerful are the results around our own WCPS students. Those who attended our pre-K programs were ready for kindergarten at nearly twice the rate of those who did not. We are committed to continuing to work with our community partners so that those students who do not attend our pre-K can get the best start in kindergarten. We know how powerful and how important that is. As students move through our schools, they've been challenged with higher expectations and expanded opportunities. I'm so thankful for our partnership with Hagerstown Community College. More than half of our juniors and seniors now take dual enrollment courses with HCC, with pass rates as high as 98%. We reached a 25-year AP pass rate high, and students can now earn over 700 industry-recognized credentials in high-demand fields. We believe our students are capable of excellence, and we've built systems to support that belief. We've also invested in growing our own, leveraging grant funds to give our own employees opportunities to become educators, and growing the passion of our high school tutor apprentices to pursue a career in education. We're also moving forward with a new apprenticeship partnership with the state, and I can't wait to see that payoff for this school system. Academically, WCPS is committed to strengthening our schools and giving each student the very necessary supports to succeed. More than half of our schools earn 4- or 5-star ratings on the Maryland School Report Card, and 86% of the schools receive 3 stars or higher. Our multi-tiered system of supports ensures at-risk students receive help early and consistently. And finally, I'm especially proud of the progress with our multilingual learners. WCPS now ranks #1. I'm going to repeat that. We now rank #1 in Maryland for exiting high school multilingual students from language services, and our enrollment has nearly doubled in 4 years. As our population grew, so did our results. Thanks to our outstanding educators who set high expectations and built strong relationships with our students and families. Now, there's always more work ahead, but the foundation is strong, and our students are better positioned for success because of that foundation. My decision to move on was made with careful thought, and I want to be very clear. My focus remains exactly where it's always been, on our students and finishing this school year strong. Education is a shared responsibility, and I want to thank our families, our staff, our board, and our many community partners for the way you work alongside WCPS to support our children and our schools. That partnership is powerful, and it makes a difference in the lives of our children every single day. Between now and the end of my contract, I am fully committed to positioning the district for continued success and ensuring that the next superintendent steps into the strongest possible foundation. It's been an honor to serve. Thank you.
Well, I think I could speak for the rest of us here, and I'm sure there'll be other comments on the board here, but, when you came in 4 years ago, times were less than easy, we'll say, right? Still recovering from COVID, and, we got through the worst of it, but there's still, is bad enough that there's still quite a bit to get through, right? And, you certainly provided strong leadership, and, I think we all appreciate what you have done for this community, and, we know this isn't going to be the end of your career here, that you're going to move on to bigger and better things, and wherever you go, I have no doubt that you'll be a success in that too. So, thank you, Dr. Savine. Next, we will go on to our 2026 legislative session report.
Good evening, President Evans, Dr. Savine, and members of the board. I'm here tonight with Mr. Prue to give you a brief rundown of what's been happening in Annapolis since the General Assembly convened on January 14th. We have passed our introduction dates, which means that most of the bills have been filed. We've seen over 2,000 bills filed to date, with over 200 touching on education in some way, shape, or form. We do have a couple of those bills that directly impact Washington County. The first one is a dual enrollment bill. One of the bills was filed by Delegate Weibel, and the other bill was filed by Senator McKay. While both bills do update the definition of dually enrolled students to include homeschool students and non-public students, the bills do differ. Delegate Weibel's bill also updates the definition of full-time equivalent enrollment. That updated definition would bring in the updated definition of dually enrolled students. And that's important because under Delegate Weibel's bill, by updating the full-time equivalent enrollment definition, it would mean funding coming to us to pay for the dually enrolled students. Under Senator McKay's bill, we would have to pay the fees for the dually enrolled students, but we would not be receiving any state or local funding for those students, so that money would be coming out of our pocket. I had spoken with Delegate Weibel. He had shared with all of us a draft of his bill. I spoke to him and explained to him that we don't receive funding for the non-public students and the homeschool students, so the money would be coming out of our pocket. After I spoke with him, he then did drop his bill, and it included the full-time equivalent enrollment definition update as well. Senator McKay had already filed his bill when I had talked to Delegate Weibel. So I'm going to reach out to Senator McKay's office to see if he plans on submitting any amendments, if he's going to walk on any amendments when the bill is heard on March 11th. If not, we may want to consider, and I'll work with the LRT, submitting testimony and offering those amendments as well. That way the bills will mirror each other and we would receive funding for those students, since we don't currently receive funding for those students. The other bill that affects Washington County Public School is the Truancy Reduction Pilot Program. This is enabling legislation that would allow us to implement a truancy court here in Washington County. If the administrative judge of Washington County so chooses, he can bring this truancy court to fruition under this bill. Under this bill, truancy violations are filed in juvenile court and assigned to the truancy docket rather than being filed with the district court. We have been asked to submit testimony in support of this bill, so I will go ahead and work with the LRT on testimony for that bill, which, speaking of testimony, we have been busy filing testimony already on some of our bills. The two bills here, we supported testimony in favor of the bills. The first one would allow the superintendent to have access to the juvenile sex offender registry. Superintendents currently don't have access to that registry. We only have access to the adult registry. when we don't have access to all the information, we can be unintentionally violating Section 11-722 of the criminal law article. That article prohibits students who are on the juvenile sex offender registry from attending school in person. Those students are to receive their education through HHT, virtual learning, or placement at a non-public school. Unfortunately, talking with our staff, we don't get the information. We ask, but they just refuse to give it to us, so this would allow us to get the information on our own. This bill was filed last year, and it didn't go anywhere. Don't have high hopes for it again this year, but I am optimistic because currently there's a juvenile justice work group, and one of the areas that they are studying is reportable offenses and sharing of information. So my hope is that we'll eventually see some bills come out of this work group that would give school systems more information pertaining to reportable offenses, because right now the sharing of information is very limited. The other bill that we submitted testimony in favor of is a school safety grant allocation. This bill simply allows school systems to access existing money. There's the Safe School Fund that not all school systems access. We do, as Mr. Prue can share with you. So there's money left over every year in that fund. This would give school systems that have accessed all the funds that they're allotted. If they can demonstrate an unmet need, then they can get additional funding. The bill hearing was held today on this bill. The bill was filed last session and didn't go anywhere. The bill hearing today seemed to focus more on not having school resource officers in schools. They shouldn't be allowed in there. So I was confused watching the bill hearing because that's not what this bill was about. This bill was simply about accessing additional money. So we'll see if this bill goes anywhere again this year. It did not last year.
This safety grant provides $10 million annually to provide adequate coverage. This is funding that stemmed from a bill after the school shooting in St. Mary's County about, I guess that would be about 8 years ago now. Over the last 3 years, you figure there were $30 million allocated the last three final fiscal years. And there was probably about $9 million that went unspent. So nearly a third of the money has gone unspent over the last number of years. Washington County has fully expended its grant, and we would have opportunities to take on additional funding if it were made available.
I have a quick question. Sorry. You mentioned that for House Bill 12, giving the superintendent access to the registry of juvenile sex offenders, we asked for the information today, but since we can't get it ourselves, we don't normally get it. Who are we asking from that's not providing it?
I believe our Student Services Department works with DJS and non-public schools that want to enroll a student, like, we'll say, for example, Cedar Ridge. We ask, but they won't give. I know our staff has gotten creative and has asked the question, if this student is enrolled in WCPS, are we violating any other laws? Trying to get around it, hoping that they'll say, yes, you will violate 11-722. But we can only do what we can with the information that we're given.
The challenge is 11-722 is very specific in terms of who the information can be shared with related to juvenile offenders, and we're not on the list.
Which makes no sense.
Another bill that we did submit testimony in favor of that does not appear on this slide, we just submitted testimony today on a bill filed by Senator Quarterman and also filed by Delegate Schindler. The bill would update the definition of child neglect to include the failure or refusal to provide a child the education required by law. We submitted testimony in support with amendments to this bill. Staff felt that the definition, the updated definition, failure or refusal to provide a child an education is a little vague. What does failure look like? Is failing to send a student to school 10 times, is that child neglect? 30 times, 80 times? The amendments that we offered to the bill put some parameters around that. That way, it doesn't vary from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, because what one jurisdiction may consider failure, another district may not. So we will see what happens with that. That bill is later this week, and the House bill is later this week. Senator Corderman has asked us to submit the same testimony for the Senate bill when that hearing is held. We have also submitted testimony in opposition.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
is that the one you stuck with 20 days on?
Yes,
you-
we
okay.
did. Yes. We've also submitted testimony in opposition to a couple bills. The first bill is a confusing bill. I'm just going to say, it's a confusing bill. It's confusing to read. The sponsor was confused as well at the hearing. She couldn't even answer questions because she was confused by the bill. But what this bill would do is it would make uniform across the state how vacancies are filled on boards of education. So currently, right now, we have the Washington County School Board Nominating Commission. If this bill were to pass, that would go away. All vacancies would be filled either through the general election or by you guys. It depends on the timing of when the vacancy is, and unfortunately, it could lead to a lengthy vacancy on the board. If the vacancy is filled by you all, you would advertise your vacancy, get applications, you would conduct interviews in an open session and closed session that you would vote on the bill. Then you, like I said, you would vote on the bill. School Board Nominating Commission goes away. The other option is through the general election. I don't see this bill passing, but you never know. The other bill, which I realized I have skipped slides here. So we'll move to the Open Meetings Act. The Open Meetings Act, there's a couple of bills filed, and this would enhance the requirements under the Open Meetings Act for us. We would be required to live stream all open meetings of the Board of Ed, and that means that we would need to start live streaming that tiny little open session you have before you go into closed session. We'd also have to start live streaming all of the committee meetings. There were some concerns by school systems, MABE, PZAM, that were expressed to the bill sponsor. The bill sponsor has been agreeable to some amendments to the bill. School systems don't always have their meetings at their headquarters. They go out into the public. For example, when we do school closings, we go to that school attendance zone. So we wouldn't be able to easily live stream a meeting like we can here in the auditorium. The sponsor was agreeable to an amendment to the bill that we have to live stream all open meetings that are at the headquarters, and any meetings that are held if they hold at least five meetings during the immediate preceding calendar year. So if you have, so we'll say, I know curriculum instruction, you guys go out to schools to have your meetings. If you, in the previous calendar year, if you had all of your meetings, if you had 5 or more meetings, you had all of those meetings at Jonathan Hager Elementary School, for example, you would have to start live streaming those meetings from there. But because you move around, you won't necessarily have to live stream those. Another amendment to the bill was that we would be able to edit a bill. Currently, as the bill was introduced, you cannot do any editing to a video, but the sponsor is agreeable to editing out pornographic or obscene events or an incident where a student's privacy is violated. If we do have to edit a video, then we have to let the Open Meetings Compliance Board know that we did edit the video. The other amendment allows us to keep our video posted on Board Docs or YouTube. The way the bill was introduced, we thought we were going to have to retain all of our video on our website. school system spoke up and said, like us, they use Board Docs, they use YouTube, and that's where all their videos are housed. So that was the other amendment that the sponsor was agreeable to. Those amendments did go through the committee today, I think it was. They were agreeable to those amendments, so it looks like the bill will move forward with the amendments out of the Senate, because I do believe it has passed a second reading already, so it looks like it will pass. The other Open Meetings Act has some of the same requirements as the Senate Bill 99, but it would increase the retention requirements to 15 years, whereas Senate Bill 99, the retention requirement, I believe, is 5 years on that. We have our annual blueprint bill, which every year there are changes to the blueprint. This slide just highlights some of the areas that will be affected by the blueprint. I haven't seen a fiscal note yet on what some of the costs might be, good and bad, for us. I don't know if Mr. Prue has seen anything yet, so we're just waiting on that. There will be, the Senate version of the bill will be heard tomorrow. The House bill will be heard on February 24th.
I think just a couple of notes on, as we look at the slide. We talked earlier today in the work session about the hold harmless and compensatory education. That's the second bullet. This is the bill we were talking about. We've been producing now for a number of years this annual technology report. It's sort of to ensure that a district is spending at least as much from year to year as they spent on the prior year on technology services. But it doesn't just include blueprint dollars, but it also includes if you had federal grants or you had another grant that was spending dollars. So we're not really sure how the state is evaluating that report. So honestly, I think we're happy to see that report go away. I think it's needless paperwork. And the likelihood is the cap on dual enrollment, leaving that cap through 2030 does actually insulate us from some costs. So I think the bill would be, I think if it passes, would be ultimately be favorable for WCPS.
I do want to point out a couple of funding bills for you. House Bill 976 alters, it's another bill that would alter the definition of full-time equivalent enrollment. Currently, full-time FTE is defined as the number of students in K-12 on September 30th. This bill would add another date, so it would be the count on September 30th and May 31st. The bill also requires MSD to produce a yearly report on enrollment and allocation. Mr. Prue can speak to whether May 31st whether 2 counts would be helpful.
I think typically the count will increase over the course of the year, so there's a likelihood that it could produce additional funding for schools. But at the same time, the budget the governor puts out is predicated on that September 30 date, and I'm not sure if I'm the governor's office and I'm the General Assembly who has to vote on a budget bill in April. You're voting on a budget that doesn't have firm allocations in it, so I'm not quite sure how this date. This is a semantics problem and a time date problem in this bill in terms of how the budgets run. Your budget is normally done by the time you get to May 31. The state budget is done by the time you get to May 31. So it would have to slow the works on all of the budget processes because you need that count on May 31. And truthfully, sometimes it takes weeks before there's back and forth. We take account, every school system takes account, all of that data is submitted to the state. And with student movement between various jurisdictions, sometimes it takes weeks to vet out, well, who had that student last? And so if you think about that process, I don't see any way the state can pass a budget by June 30th with this bill.
It says May 31st of the prior school year. So how does that help us if it's the 31st of the prior school year? Because September 30th is obviously after that.
September 30th is also the prior year. So you're talking about future funding. Okay. So for fiscal year 27, you're talking about an enrollment on September 30, 2025.
Okay.
This would add May 31, 2026 and for that funding that begins on July 1, 2026 and runs through June 30, 2027. So it really puts a, use a little colloquialism, it puts a fly in the ointment in terms of the gears of the budget process, not only at the state level, but also here at the local level. And also for county commissioners, because you're talking about elevating your total enrollment count, which changes the allocation for everybody. It's troublesome.
I understand the reason for it because, if we get 200 new students in, well, we don't have the funding for that. So I understand it. Is there any way that maybe we could say, hey, can we have the numbers for March? Or do you think that it's not worth it at all?
There is a March count, so that could be an alternate date. But again, the final count's going to come in after the state budget deadline. I mean, the state typically, and I think the dates are here in your presentation, the state law is that the General Assembly has to approve a budget a week before sine die. I think it's 7 days before sine die. And that's usually the first week of April. So you're talking days after that last enrollment count takes place. And again, it takes weeks before the MSD can certify that everyone's enrollment is what it is. This is really a bill, to your point, this is a bill for schools that are growing. For instance, Frederick County over the last number of years has been growing by 1,200 to 1,500 students. So this is a type of bill that definitely would help them. But what we are seeing actually right now is that growth across the state has slowed. And actually a lot of schools are decreasing. So you also stand a chance that with decreasing, this could hurt LEAs if your enrollments are decreasing.
So Jeff, would the May 31st date include our early graduates or not include them?
It's a good question. I would say probably yes, but I couldn't guarantee that. Lot to be done here. I get there's a problem with the September 30 date. I sort of do. If you're growing, there's a problem with the September 30 date. But I could argue it's not just full-time equivalent. If you want to talk about problems with growth, for instance, we often see an influx of ML students in January. That's a time period when there's a lot of movement amongst ML students, and that's a period when we often see significant growth. So you could argue that if we're going to take another count, don't just have it be on overall K-12 count, but also look at your pre-K. Pre-K grows over the course of the year. Pre-K count on October 31 is always higher than it is on September 30, yet we get count on September 30. You have to draw a line in the sand somewhere, otherwise the wheels of progress grind to a halt.
The next bill on the slide, Mr. Burkett mentioned during today's work session, it's a maintenance of effort inflation adjustment bill. There was a very robust discussion today at MABE's legislative committee meeting about it. I do want to note, though, that this does not impact WCPS because we are not funded through maintenance of effort. The next bill is a public school construction funding bill. It has been introduced by Senator Quarterman, and it would increase the current level of funding by $100 million for school construction. This funding is separate from the Built to Learn program funding, so it would be additional construction money. There's already $450 million allotted for it, but this would just be an increase. And I think Mr. Prue can probably agree that any additional funding for school construction is welcome.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the growth in capital funding, sort of been stagnant at both the state and the local level, but the cost of construction, going up exponentially. This is welcome additional funds if this bill were to pass, and probably would net out to WCPS about $2 to $2.5 million.
I wanted to ask on that 562, so we're not under maintenance of effort anymore?
No, we're now in the blueprint formula and have been for 2 years.
So then what's this bill?
There are many counties that are still in maintenance of effort.
And not under blueprint
that
yet.
You're in blueprint, but only up until the point that the blueprint funding allocated by your system surpasses where you are with maintenance of effort. So if your maintenance of effort funding from your county government is a greater amount than what the county allocation would be under the blueprint, then you stay in maintenance of effort. This is akin, actually, what I would argue this is also similar to when there was the low effort designation in the law prior to the blueprint. And if counties were not keeping pace with growth across the state in terms of how they were funding their school systems, this is very similar to language that there was, I think actually the same language, where they use a CPI index. Typically, it's the August, I think it's either July or August index for the greater Washington area with a cap at 5%. It's the same language that was in the maintenance of effort bill under what they call the low effort designation prior to the blueprint.
So next time, Jamie, text me and say, just shut up. Stop talking. Well, I was defending the, anyway.
Just a couple bills of interest here to point out to you. There are more cell phone bills this year, but there are not as many cell phone bills filed as there was last year. They all have a couple of things in common. They all require a policy, and they all have allowable uses, meaning a student would be allowed to use their electronic device if it is written into their IEP or 504 plan, or if they have a medical issue that requires the use of an electronic device. The three bills that I've listed, all I can think of is one is just right, one's too hard. It's like Goldilocks. House Bill 163 is probably, if one of them has to pass, this is probably the one we want to pass. There's consensus across the state that these bills aren't needed because all school systems have a cell phone bill or they're in the process of adopting a cell phone bill. So in a way, these cell phone bills really aren't needed. The first one, House Bill 163, it would prohibit use by elementary and middle school students, and it would limit use by high school students. The House Bill 525 is by far the most prescriptive one. It prohibits use bell to bell, no matter the grade level. Phones must be stored, and it's up to the boards of education on how those are stored, but it can't be stored on the student's person. We would have to develop a policy with students, staff, parents, and communities. We would have to publish the policy in multiple language in the handbook and on our website, and our policy would have to include tiered disciplinary measures, but those disciplinary measures can't include suspension or expulsion. The last bill, House Bill 755, it kind of lies somewhere in the middle of the first one and the second one. It also prohibits use bell to bell, also says that phones must be stored, but with this one, you have to designate a phone in the school for students to use to contact their parent or guardian during a school day. But it also does state that our policy would have to include disciplinary measures. So like I said, if one of the bills passes, hopefully it would be House Bill 163 because it's least prescriptive, and we may not have to update our policy too much since we already have a policy on cell phones. The next bill is a seat bus bill on school buses. This one has the potential to be an unfunded mandate if it passes. Estimates are saying that if we have to start moving towards school buses with seat belts, that adds at least $10,000 to the cost of a new school bus.
And this is something that's come up, it's come up at the federal level as well as the state level. There are pros and cons from a safety perspective on both having the seat belts and not having the seat belt. So I think this is something we'll just continue to watch for now.
Well, it is an unfunded mandate. This is one of those bills that it's hard to go out and oppose because then it looks like you're against student safety. And we're not. We're just opposed to the unfunded mandate. So this is just one that we'll watch and hope that it
I was here the Friday the Student Government Association met, and they brought up a lot of these bills. I was very excited about all the chatter, and they had a lot of disagreement, agreement, very thoughtful conversation. And one of the things that I brought up that they didn't know was about the unfunded mandates. So that really put a different perspective on how they were thinking.
Right.
But it was really great conversation, and this seatbelt bill was one of the things that they debated.
Yeah, unfunded mandates there's always a lot of bills every year that, whether they realize it or not, are unfunded mandates for school systems, and this is one of them. While it looks like a good bill, and it's about student safety, but on the other hand, it can be very costly when you add up a minimum $10,000 per bus. It can be a lot. The other bill, for better or for worse, Washington County inspired a bill. The prolonged state of emergency bill would authorize the state superintendent to declare a state of emergency if one exists at a school. So our Williamsport High School inspired this bill. There is possibly some amendments that are going to come out on this bill. The Senate committee that heard the bill was supposed to vote on it today, and I believe amendments were going to be offered on it. However, their bill hearings went long today, so they are moving their voting session to tomorrow. There were some concerns with the bill in giving the state superintendent too much authority. So the amendments that were previously discussed but were not officially offered yet would set out in the bill qualifying events. So it would be very limited. My guess is something like an asbestos situation, closing down a whole school would be a qualifying event. It could only be triggered by a local request, so a local Board of Education, if they had one of these triggering events, would have to make the request to the state superintendent for the state superintendent to declare a state of emergency. And the other amendment would be that state of emergency only pertains to that local jurisdiction that made the request. Like I said, the vote was supposed to be today, didn't happen. I'll keep an eye on that one and let you know what happens with that one. The budget, like Mr. Prue said, it does have to be passed by both chambers by April 6th. This year, the Senate is moving the bill, so they will get the first crack at it. The Senate has a hearing scheduled on March 1st for Senate Bill 284, so we will just keep an eye on that one and see what happens with that. And just to wrap it up, the March 17th is the committee reporting courtesy date, meaning that if a committee is going to issue a report, whether favorable or unfavorable on a bill, they ask that it be done by March 17th. March 23rd is crossover day, meaning that any bills that received a favorable report will then move to the opposite chamber. As I said, the budget bill needs to be passed by April 6th, and then April 13th is the last day of the session.
To intrude. I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning. I've just been thinking about this throughout the course of your presentation. Back to House Bill 1231. It talked about revising the definition of dually enrolled students. Would that, and the full-time equivalent with that, would that change the number of courses required to become a fully enrolled student or a dual enrolled student? Because I know I go to Tech High for one period a day, and then I immediately go and commute to H2C and take classes additionally. And because of that, I'm limited to only taking 3 classes. If I take any more, then I'm not able to continue my class at Tech High because I'm considered a middle college or early college access student. And with that comes like the stipend for lunches and things like that. would that at all affect the, like in a situation similar to mine where students are taking them in addition to their classes rather than as their entire course load?
These bills have no effect on public school enrolled students in Washington County. The alteration here is that it opens up dual enrolled courses to students in non-public schools or who are homeschooled. So it allows them to utilize our agreement that we have with HCC for those dually enrolled courses. And then the difference between the two bills is whether Washington County Public Schools would receive funding for those students so that we could then pay the bill for the tuition credits.
Okay. So practically, if statistics is offered at Boonesboro High School, students that would be attending HCC could go to Boonesboro High School and take that statistics class there?
No, this would be a student, let's say at Heritage Academy, and wanted to take an HCC course. Right now, unless Heritage has their own agreement with HCC, they might be excluded from a duly enrolled course. They could enroll, take the course through HCC, and WCPS would pay the bill for those tuition credits.
All right, thank you, sorry.
Sure.
Very good. Does anyone else have any questions? Thank you very much, guys. I know it's probably not very fun sitting down and watching all those meetings, so, although maybe there's some fireworks sometimes, but.
Occasionally, but not too often.
Yeah. So thank you, guys. We appreciate it. Next, we'll move to board member committee reports. Finance.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I know, he always starts with me. I was ready to talk.
I know, I was waiting for him to, our next meeting is March 31st at 8:30 in the morning here at CDS.
Very good. Go to.
Okay. CNI met at Eastern, which has the highest MCAPs in the state. And their attendance has improved every single month as compared to last year. It was truly amazing to be there. Everything from their volunteer programs to extended learning, it was amazing to hear about the school. We looked at the new AP US History book, which Dr. Willow, I am not finished with yet, and the AP US Gov, and German text, which I'm not even going to even try to read. The special ed programs for next year were also discussed, as well as our Grow Your Own Pathways. Thanks to Dr. Willow, Ali Basco, the principal, Paula Moore, and Carly Pumphrey for their input and just allowing us another deeper glimpse into what we're doing in curriculum and instruction. Our next meeting is March 10th, 10:30 at Smithburg Middle.
Very good. HR?
HR met on Tuesday, January 13th, and we learned about the Frontier system. It allows the public to go on and apply for a job. It also allows our current employees to find training, and can you think of anything else? It was so inclusive. It's really a good program. They do trainings. There's so many things that they can do with this program. And next meeting will be Tuesday, March 10th at 1 o'clock here on the board meeting.
And I received a message from Mr. Guestford saying that the next facility meeting is February 26th, but that is that a definite yet, or tentative? We'll say tentative. We'll say a tentative meeting for facilities, February 26th at 1 p.m. With that, we'll move on to future agenda items. Board members, you all see the future agenda items there in your packet, so I'll let you see them. If there's anything that you would like to see added to any agenda, please let anyone in the agenda planning committee know, and we'll see to it that it gets on there as quickly as possible. With that being said, we will move to board member comments, and I keep starting with Charlie, so I'm going to start with Nora today.
So once again, I appreciate all the board members' support. Ms. Murray was able to attend the Washington County Association of Student Councils General Assembly this past month, and it was a really enlightening experience. We were able to review some of the bills passing through the Maryland General Assembly and decide our stances on them to advocate for in our Advocacy Day plan, which I believe is scheduled for March 13th, coming up. So I know we all split up our work into separate delegations, and we're working together to make sure that our testimony accurately reflects our student body. Other than that, I would really like to once again thank the students that have been able to come and share their voices. Every single voice matters, and I would like to. If every single student could show up to one of these meetings, I'm sure all of us board members would be overjoyed. Thank you guys for your time, and this position is such a blessing.
Thank you.
Well, like Nora said, I got to come to the Student Government Association meeting. It was about 9:30 to a little after 1. It was great. I enjoyed every minute of it. And then last Friday, I got to go to Eastern Elementary's Renaissance Fair. That was amazing. The fifth grade teachers really outdid themselves. The costumes, the crafts that they were doing, the storytelling in costume was amazing. And I really, really enjoyed it and was so thankful that they sent out that invitation. And I also got to see my friend, Ivan Santiago, in his new special ed room. He's doing a phenomenal job, like I knew he would. And so, and meet the principal there, whom I had never met. So it was a great day. I was really glad to be there.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Murray. We'll move on to Mr. Burkett.
Since our last meeting, I visited Bester, Paramount, Malkinsville, Sharpsburg, Greenbrier, Eastern, and Pangbourne Elementary Schools. You know, it is really neat to go in these schools and see how much the teachers love their job. Something new that I learned while visiting these schools was the idea of departmentalizing. This is where students in grades 3 to 5 are able to experience class changes, which kind of you would think would be a no-brainer for, but they move around from classes. It kind of prepares them for what's going to happen when they go into middle school and go to different classes. Some schools do 3rd, 4th, and 5th, some just do 5th. But maybe that's something all schools will look at some point. All the teachers I talked to really seem to like how it works. I was looking back there in the back to see if anybody back there was like, they're up. Anyway, I wonder why we weren't already doing that when I was in school. Not really, but. One last comment. While visiting Greenbrier, a young lady named Madeline asked about getting ice cream, and so I told her I would mention it. And so Madeline, hopefully they'll work on that for you. I'm not sure if she meant a one-time ice cream or if they need ice cream in that school, but hopefully they work on that for you. And finally, Dr. Savine, I've only got to work with you for like a year and a half, and I do respect your leadership, and especially with the ordeal that went on down at Williamsport. I think you all did an amazing job, and I think everybody did an amazing job on that, but it took good leadership to make that happen, and so thank you and for what you've done for the school system.
You can take the teacher out of the classroom, but you can't take the teacher out of the teacher. So today's history lesson is an unlikely love story as a nod to Valentine's Day. On September 3rd, 1939, German troops invaded Poland. A 15-year-old girl, Gerda Weissman, and her family hunkered down in a Jewish ghetto until 1942, when Gerda was torn from her mom, Helene, who was sent to a death camp. Gerda spent the next 3 years in a concentration camp, followed by a 350-mile death march, at the end of which she was a 68-pound human skeleton. The atrocities of the Holocaust are unconscionable, and Greta's story ends better, not bitter. In one of the most improbable love stories, Greta married the soldier who found her, Lieutenant Kurt Klein. There are 6 towers at the Boston Holocaust Museum that represent the 6 extermination camps where 6 million Jews lost their lives. 5 towers tell the story of unimaginable cruelty and suffering, but the 6th tower stands as a testimony to hope. Inscribed in it is one short story by Gerda Weissman. Klein, she did marry Klein. One raspberry. Elise, a friend of mine, once found a raspberry in the camp and carried it in her pocket all day to present it to me on a leaf that evening. Imagine a world in which your entire possession is one raspberry and you give it to a friend. My point, give generously, love deeply. There are few ways of life that never fail to provide huge returns and great stories. So I hope your Valentine's Day celebrations continue throughout the rest of the year. And Dr. Savine, you are appreciated. You have invested your time and talent in Washington County Public Schools every single day. It is a privilege to have been under your leadership. Thank you.
You always have the best history lessons. I always like them. Well, thank you everyone for showing up. If no one else has anything for the good of the order, this meeting will be adjourned. Oh, did you have anything, Dr. Savine? Okay, very good. This meeting is adjourned.